Listen, I'm so honored to be here today. Brian's in Atlanta. Took Braden with him. We try to divvy up the kids, and they like to go out of town with him. And Braden FaceTimed me last night before service, like, best day ever, Mom. And the cool thing is the church that I don't know if you guys remember Jeannie Mayo when she came here, with her son Josh Mayo. He started a church a while ago, and him and Brian are pretty close. And so he's a PK, and so he knew a PK was coming. So he filled the hotel room with Braden's favorite snacks. And so Braden walked to the hotel. He's like, yeah. And they went to a Braves game last night. So, yeah, he's having a good time. And then I told him, reminder, you go to school on Monday. I know, Mom. Moms always have to, bring it down to reality, right? So listen, so glad to be here today. And I'm thankful for those that watch online. We've got Colonial Heights, Florida. Oh, it was one of our college kiddos from Florida's watching. I don't know if you know this, but we have 7 of our Destination Youth that went to SCU in Florida. There's my baby's one of them. So we've got some of them watching online this morning too. So we just want to say we miss you guys. But listen, so I thought, we're talking about Hall of Faith. We're talking about faith stories, and I don't know if you guys know this, but I spend a lot of time in kids ministry. I love to preach back there. It is just, those are my peeps. We just have a good time, and so it's a little bit more intimidating because you guys all just stare at me. With them, they're all over, okay? So I'm used to, the middle of it, just say, my dog died last night. Usually that's what I get, or guess what I had for dinner, Pastor Kelly? So you can just yell stuff out. No, don't really. But I'm just used to random. Someone will just say, I'm going to the bathroom. Yeah, I'm used to all that. Tie my shoe. Yeah, I've heard it all. So I'm used to little distractions, so don't be quiet on me today because I'm not used to it. But I thought, what a great way. I'm going to start this series off with actually someone from our kids' ministry, because I don't know if you know this, but we don't babysit your kids back there. We preach. We teach. We plant seeds. We tell them they have a purpose. They have a calling. God can speak to them. We constantly are telling these kids that they can go make a difference. So I brought one of our kids from Kids Ministry. So would you give her a hand as she comes up here and joins me? Grab your microphone. You need your mic. She's done, this is her 3rd time being up here with me today, and it actually makes me feel better having one of my kiddos up here with me from Kids Ministry. So I'm going to let you tell everybody, what's your name?
My name is Harper.
Okay, and how old are you, Miss Harper?
I'm 8 years old, turning 9 this October.
Woo-woo, yes. I love kids. They're always looking for the next age. As adults, we go down a couple, right, But listen, if you guys don't know, so Harper is Pastor John and Rebecca's youngest kiddo. And Pastor John and Rebecca are the couple that have been with us before the church started. So we have done life together. We knew Rebecca and John before kids and after kids. They have a son that's the same age as Braden. So we've got to see Ashton and Braden grow up together. And Harper has a very special place in our family. Harper, tell everybody, who are you very close to in my family?
Gracie,
yes. So her and Gracie have a very special bond. They always have. So tell everybody, what do you guys call each other?
God's sisters.
God sisters. And I think last week you guys FaceTimed, right? Yeah, because I got the phone. She's like, because I was beeping in. I think I was like, who are you on the phone with? You know how moms are like, who are you on the phone with? Why didn't you answer my call the first time? Right? She's like, Mom, I was FaceTiming Harper. I was like, oh, sorry. So I love it that they're still staying connected. We're going to head to Florida very soon, aren't we? Me and you. We're going to go. I think I can talk your mom into it. But anyway, so listen, I brought Harper in here for a reason because I actually was in a meeting with Pastor John, and we were sharing stories of just hey, how was your week? Let's share some wins and stuff like that. And so he was sharing a story of yeah, Rebecca and I are just really trying to get our kids to listen to God and hear his voice. And let me just say, a little side note of Rebecca and John, best parents ever. Kudos to them. I am always just do what they do, right? I think Ashton's read through the Bible. I don't know how many times the kid has read through the Bible. In fact, when he's in kids ministry, he usually fact checks me. He's like, Pastor Kelly, did you know? And I'm like, thank you, Ashton. Yeah, it's awesome. But so just amazing. Their parents are always just trying to get them closer to God. And even, Rebecca's parents, it's just generations of it. But we're going to share a story, something that happened a few weeks ago. If you guys remember the outreach week that we did a lot of different projects at schools, and it got us to our back to school Sunday. All those projects, Pastor John kind of sets all those projects up, and his family went to a lot of them. So it's kind of like at the end of the day, they had done a serve project, kind of end of the day was over, and there was some commotion in the parking lot. So I'm going to let you take it from there. Tell everybody, because you were with your mom and dad, your brother was there, and what was kind of going on in the parking lot at the end of the day?
So, at the end of the day, we just had to go. We went to the school board, I think, and someone had said, "Does anyone know Spanish?" And because there's a Uber driver that did not know any English, and I know Spanish. I go to a school that half days in Spanish and half days in English. I've done that since kindergarten. So my mom never wants to push me to like speak to strangers in Spanish if they don't know. But
Which is good. We're glad her mom does not make her speak to strangers in Spanish. Yes. So you heard this commotion, and he was speaking Spanish. Nobody there could speak Spanish. So, and like what she was saying was her mom didn't force her to do it, right? She was like, so you kind of felt like, hey, I can help out, right? So you jumped in.
Mm-hmm. So me and my dad went over there because I had said, yes, I know Spanish. So,
I do. I think we even have a picture. I keep forgetting to say that but go ahead and put the picture up if you want to of Harper. Yep. So she's kind of speaking to the Uber driver. And so he was like, he needed to get somewhere and he didn't know where to go. So you were able to tell him, what did you tell him?
I told him, follow me. But his phone was completely in Spanish. So that was a little hard for my dad.
So they got in the van, and they said, well, like, follow us. He had to get to Dollar General because that's where his rider was that he was trying to pick up. So they all got in the van as a family. He followed the van. They got him to Dollar General, and there was his ride. And you would think that's the end of the story. That's not where their story ends. Because after that, so they all get back in the car. You guys are in the car, right? Now, let's go back to the 7 steps. If you don't know, when we introduced this series, the very first sermon that Bryan preached in this series, because we always do series, was the 7 steps. You sense it, believe it, speak it, walk it. So this is kind of like why I had Harper up here for a reason, because she was sensing something in her heart, right? And so what were you in the van? You're kind of seeing what's going on, because the Uber driver and the lady, they weren't real happy with each other, were they? No. So kind of tell me, what were you sensing in that moment? What were you feeling?
I was sensing that God was just kind of calling me to help that woman and that man because, again, he didn't speak any English. So, I felt bad for the Uber driver because, she was really yelling at him. So me and my dad got out of the car, and we went over there. And she was like, do you speak Spanish? And I was like, yes. So she was like, okay, say this to him, say that. And I was like, okay. And I was translating, and,
So she was pretty upset, wasn't she? Because the thing about Uber drivers, you have to pay ahead of time. And then if it doesn't, you can't just get your money instantly back. So she was kind of like, no ride. Her money was gone, and she was really upset, wasn't she?
Yeah, her van had broke down. She was living in her van. Mm-hmm. She was about to lose her job. So
you knew that it wasn't over. What were you sensing in your heart? Like what you were supposed? Did you feel like God was trying to tell you to do something? What was God telling you?
Just to help her in just any way I could. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking for a while, and I thought the only way I could help her is to take her to the job. Okay. And so she would have to hop in our car. So, but then I thought, well, are my parents going to allow that?
I don't know. And they had been serving all day, right?
My dad was exhausted. He was out of it.
He was out of it. Kids tell the truth, right? He was done. We've served enough. But you knew you weren't done, right? So What happened from there? So you guys give her a ride, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, all the way back to Richmond.
Mm-hmm. It was like a 45-minute ride. I mean, I was just talking my mouth away.
Yeah, just talking away, getting to know her. And when you were talking to her, what were you finding out about her?
I was finding out that like she used to go to a church and she loved dancing, but she had stopped going to a church, and so she was telling me just all about her life and stuff, and so my parents got a chance to pray with her, and that was really nice. But I also told her about our church, and I shared lots of things about our church, and
I think you gave her an invite card too.
yeah, I gave her an invite card, and
so I feel like you were the church that day. You know, you are probably a good reminder of what church really is. It's about helping in the moment of the need. So listen, I know we're talking about, people in the Bible that have lived this amazing faith walks. But if Destination Church had a book of faith, Harper Calhoun, your name would go in it. Are you so proud of her? I love this girl. Thank you, sweet girl. You're awesome. You can go she's pretty confident up here. She had no problem being up. But I mean, we could literally end the sermon right here. We'd be done, right? I brought her in here because I wanted you guys to hear God can speak to anybody. Anybody. And that's what we tell them back there. God can speak to you. If you're supposed to invite somebody, invite them. Your parents will get on board eventually, right? So listen, we're going to open up with today, and we're going to go right to Hebrews 11. If you guys remember, that's where Pastor Bryan starts off every single part of this series. He starts off in Hebrews 11 because it's kind of like the cliff note of where the story is. It's kind of like the short version, and then we're going to go back and actually hear the story of Sarah. Now, Hebrews 11:11, it says, and I always read from the NLT in case you want to know, it was by faith that even Sarah was able to have a child. Though she was barren and was too old, she believed that God would keep his promise. Now, I'm going to go right into your one thing to know. Okay, and your one thing to know today is the only way to the promise is by faith. The only way you're going to reach the promise is the path of faith. And it says right here that she received it was by faith. It didn't say by her way or by her knowledge or by her who she knew, her connections. It says by faith. That's when Sarah reached their promise. Now, I have a demonstration that's going to be coming out here, and it's going to help set up today's story of Sarah. Now, this is the thing. That's the cliff note of Sarah, but we're going to go back where Sarah's story really started. So here's the promise that we know Sarah does receive. We know the answer to it, right? And this rope is going to represent her faith. So the way to get to the promise, there's only one. It's her faith that got her there. So we're going to go back, okay? Bear with me here. We're going to get a little Bible lesson, and I flip through my actual Bible. I always laugh because, I know we all have our phones, and and I'm so thankful that we can download the Bible app, but I feel like sometimes you just got to get a Bible in your hands. And one thing I know Brian always says, and I've heard Pastor Jansen say, if you don't have a messed up Bible, you probably have a messed up life. So you should have a Bible that looks like you read it, right? And mine is like highlighted and the pages are crunchy. I still have a page where, I don't know if you remember this, when Pastor Bryan preached a sermon, he used a water hose. And he sprayed me. I have a wet page to prove it. Yeah, my page is all cream. Every time I look at that, I'm like, how dare he spray me? No, it's okay. But you should have a Bible that you use. So we're going to go back because I want you to see Sarah's story. Now, this is the thing about Sarah and Abraham. We have to talk about Abraham because they were married. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Abraham. Now, before they were Sarah and Abraham, their names were different. It was Sarai and it's Abram, okay? So we're going to go back to when she was Sarai, okay? Now, you got to follow me here. We're going to go all the way back to Genesis 9:26, and they're not all going to be on the screen. I'm just going to read little parts of it. But 9:26, this is the first time Because you may think, well, why did Abram just get picked out of all these people to be blessed and be the father of nations? Well, let me kind of show you maybe why. So remember last week when Brian preached about Noah? And remember Noah had 3 sons, if you remember. And those 3 sons, remember when Noah, he built the boat, he was so faithful to God, and got off the boat, built the altar, gave praise to God. And then from there, the poor guy, he got naked and got drunk. Don't judge Noah. Okay, you go back and read his story, and we'll see how you kept your sanity in that time with your family and the animals. But what the part of the story, the 3 sons come into the picture, because one son sees this happen and says, you won't believe what our dad did. It's so embarrassing. And this is the part that I want you to know, that Shem, one of the sons, went to go cover up his father. But this is how he came into the room from his father. He came in backwards in honor, because he wanted to cover his father, protect him, honor him, show him that. So let me tell you why that's important, because Shem, Abram comes from the descendant of Shem. 10 generations later. So if you look at Genesis 9:26, Noah says, may the Lord, the God of Shem, be blessed. So this is where Abram comes from. 10 generations later, here comes Abram. But I have to think just a little bit that maybe Shem helped set the stage for Abram by showing honor and respect, even when someone didn't deserve it. Shem did. So just want you to know that. So if you look at Genesis 11:30, this is the first time you hear the little bit of information about Sarai. Sarai was unable to become pregnant, and she had no children. And that's it. Old Testament tells you like it is. There's no fluff. It's just she was barren, no children. That's it. And it just moves on. Okay, then you go to Genesis 12:1. This is the first time that Abram is called. So it says, the Lord had said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, your father's family. Go to the land that I will show you. I'm going to make you into a great nation. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to make you famous. You will be a blessing to others. It will bless those who bless you. It will curse those who treat you with contempt. And all the families on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. So, that's a pretty good word. Abram's like, yeah, let's go. That's a good word for me. But listen, what's funny about Abram now, this isn't going to be Abram's story, but just kind of pretend it's the side story over here. Abram's told, leave your relatives, leave your country. And it says he did, and Lot went with him. First thing he did was take his nephew after God just told him, don't take anybody. And he was like, God didn't really mean everybody. I'm just going to take one. Well, if you just remember that, because Lot comes back into the story several times, and he wasn't supposed to. So then we go on down to Genesis. We're still in chapter 12. If we skip down to verse 10. Now, this is what's interesting. Here's Abram, here's Sarai. And a famine comes. They said, okay, we're going to have to go to Egypt. Okay, we're going to have to get out of here. We got to figure out what's going on. So they go to Egypt. Now, like I said, when I tell you the first part of this story, you're going to not have the most respect for Abram and Sarai. But can I say this? Think if your story was printed in the Bible. Yeah. So let's just give a little grace, okay? It's all printed. They printed everything, okay? So let's not get too hard on Abram and Sarai, because I know if my story, there's more to my story that I'd be like, oh, do we have to put that part? I'm sure Abram was like, can we just leave that part out, God? Is that okay? He's like, no, it gets all put in. So here they are, and Abram's like, okay, so Sarai, so listen, I'm thinking we're in a country that's not ours. And I'm thinking, you're really pretty. That was Sarah. She was beautiful. Everybody knew it. There was no hiding it. He said, so I'm thinking, well, tell everybody you're my sister, which was a little bit of truth there, because she was like a half-sister on the father's side down the line. Okay, it's Old Testament, so don't judge it. So he's like, but that way no one will kill me. And maybe we'll gain something like some riches and some stuff from it. So I think this could benefit us. Now, I don't know what the conversation was. I don't know if she was like, that's a terrible plan. I don't know if she was like, well, okay, I guess. Or maybe she was good with it because she's like, hey, I might be able to gain something from this, maybe some authority, maybe some riches. I'm not for sure what the conversation, but I know she went. And I know when she entered Pharaoh's home, it did not take Pharaoh, because see, when God has his hand on you, God is God, and you're going to know something's not right. And Pharaoh was like, whoa, what happened? All of a sudden, his home got disrupted. There was some plagues going on. He's like, what's going on? Well, then he realized it's her. He's like, Abram, I didn't know that was your sister. Come on. I thought we were closer than that. Why did you do this? He's like, get her and go. And so Abram takes Sarah. They leave Egypt. And I'm not for sure. I'm sure the friendship wasn't too good after that. I'm sure he was pretty upset with him. But I know Abram left. And he also left with her. And they did get to leave with some riches. Now, this is where I told you, you can't just skip 13 and 14 and 15 and get to 16, because that's when chapter 16 is where Sarai's story comes in. But remember when I told you about Lot? Here comes Lot. Problem number 1 is chapter 13. So you got to think. God had a plan, and Lot was some distractions for the plan. So here's Abram's story. First time Lot becomes a problem because they were traveling together, and they both are, all their servants and all their riches, it got to be too much. And there was some fighting going on. He's like, hey, we're going to have to separate because you got too much, I got too much. No one's getting along. It's causing me stress. I wonder why it's causing him stress. He said, so we're going to have to separate. So they separate. He's like, Lot, where do you want to go? You pick first. So Lot goes and picks his land. And so he's like, okay, problem solved, right? Whew. Right? So then you go to chapter 14. Oh, Lot, come on. Lot's a problem again. Here, someone wants to kill Lot. He finds out, Abram's like, oh, I got to go save Lot again. Come on, Lot. So he has to take 318 of his own men. He has to go save Lot, spare his life, bring him back. And I just can't imagine Abram at this time. He's like, Lot, seriously, you're causing a lot of stress on me. Remember, it wasn't a stress he was supposed to take on, but he chose it. So then you get to chapter 15, and as another God says, Abram, I've called you. I love you. You're going to be the father of many. See all the stars. Those are going to be your descendants. It's just another reminder of God's promise. And then here comes Sarai, and I'm going to read this. Chapter 16. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, the Lord has prevented me from having children, so go, sleep with my servant. Perhaps I'll have children through her. And Abram agreed with the promise. So here's the promise. They know the promise. Abram knows the promise. Sarai knows the promise, okay? But where do I see that remember, this is her faith. And where do I see in the story the first time that Sarah comes in contact with her faith, and what does she do about it? She said, well, the Lord has prevented me from having children. She totally throws it back on God. It's God's fault that I'm the way I am. He made me this way, right? How many of us, don't just share, we've said, well, I can't help it that I was born into this family, right? And we blame God. And that's exactly what Sarai did. Well, the Lord's the one that made me this way. So, it's his fault, right? We say, well, my job wasn't supposed to be like this. It's their fault that I'm not higher up. I should have had that promotion, right? We blame. Well, God promised me that, but I still haven't had children, and I still haven't had the husband I know God told me I was going to have. In fact, he's running farther from God. This is the way God wanted it. God did this. And she blamed God for making her barren, because it says she did. Now, keep going down in chapter 16, because this is the thing. She says, it's not only God's fault, but maybe God needs my help. Maybe he wasn't paying attention all the way. And so I'm like, okay, I got this. Don't worry, God, I got it. Right? And she comes up with a plan, great plan. And Abram's okay with the plan too. He's like, okay, I'll take one for the team, right? She's like, I got a plan. I got it all figured out. You're going to sleep with the servant girl, and we're going to have a kid through her, and it's going to be great. Abram's like, okay, let's do it. And then you go down a few verses. Now, then she's mad about the plan. That was her plan. That doesn't sound like a woman at all, right? No. So here we go. Let's skip down to verse 4. So Abram, he slept with Hagar, and she became pregnant. And when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat Sarai with contempt. Then Sarai said to Abram, well, this is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now you're pregnant. She treats me with contempt, and the Lord is going to show who's wrong, you or me. And Abram replied, look, she's your servant. You go deal with it. And so Sarai treated Hagar so harshly as she ran away. Now, why do I bring this out to you? Now, go back to that verse. She treated her so harshly. This is when I know Sarai had some unforgiveness in her life. And how do I know that? Hurt people hurt people. Go back to when she was thrown into Pharaoh's home in Egypt. I don't know if that was Sarah's choice. I don't know if she took one for the team, but I'm sure it wasn't what she wanted. And here, I'm sure she felt maybe abandoned, hurt, scared. I don't think Pharaoh was the nicest man on earth. I can't imagine what she went through, but I know it hurt. How do I know it hurt? Because then she does the same thing to Hagar. Hurt people will hurt people. So I know in Sarah's journey, there was some unforgiveness. There was some stuff there deep down in her journey because she turned around and did the same thing that somebody did to her. Because she's like, Abram did it to me. And it said, what's fascinating about Hagar, it says she took Hagar from Egypt. She didn't ask her. She didn't say, hey, do you want to come hang out with us? She took her. So it shows the unforgiveness there. You take me, I'll take somebody else. You hurt me, I'll hurt somebody else. Because we think that's how we get through. We get revenge. We get back. Then we take what's ours. And so I know in her journey, she was dealing with some unforgiveness. Now, go to 17, chapter 7. Yeah, just if you follow these chapters, and we're going fast, but I'm telling you, if you want to really get down, go back and read these chapters because there's so much good stuff in here. This is what I love. So here's this mess. Abram's a mess. Sarai's a mess. There's unforgiveness. There's blame. There's some stuff going on. Then all of a sudden, here comes chapter 17. I love chapter 17. This is when God renames them. In the midst of this mess, I'm thinking, God, you see how they're living, right? They're taking servants, they're gaining riches, they're making some bad decisions, and all of a sudden, the matter, God says, I've called you, I'm going to rename you, I love you, you're going to be the father of nations, you're going to be the mother of nations. See, God didn't care about the mess. He's still in the middle of all of it, reminded them who they were, whose they were, and who they were called to be. In the midst of it. Because sometimes we think we have to have it all right. Oh, well, God, I only went to church one time this month. Oh, there's no way you're going to call me. There's no way you're going to use me this week. It's not the way God works. It's not the way. In the midst of Sarah and Abram's story, I hope you see that they went from Sarah to Sarah and Abram to Abraham. In the midst of their mess, God gave them a new name and reminded them whose they were. I hope that brings you hope. So let me keep going, though. So then we get to chapter 18. So here we are, another scenario. Here's Sarah. There's this incident at the tent. There's these messengers, and Sarah's at the tent, and she hears this conversation going on. Now, remember, God, again, keeps reminding them who they are, renamed them and everything. Here we go in verse 9. Well, where's Sarah, your wife? The visitors asked. Well, she's inside the tent, Abram replied. The one of them said, well, I'm going to return this time next year, and your wife Sarah is going to have a son. Now, Sarah was listening to this conversation. Abram and Sarah were both very old by this time. Sarah was long past the age of having children, so she laughed silently to herself. How could a worn-out woman like me enjoy such pleasure, especially when my master, my husband, is also so old? Then the Lord said to Abram, well, why did Sarah laugh? Why did she say, can an old woman like me have a baby? Is anything not too hard for God, for the Lord? I'm going to return this time next year, and Sarah's going to have a son. He says it again. God has to repeat sometimes, right? Sarah was afraid. She denied. I said, it wasn't me that laughed. It wasn't me, because she was embarrassed. She's like, I didn't do it. She lied. And I think, here's Sarah. She's got some blaming. She's got some unforgiveness. And then she gets to this point where she's like, okay, it's reality. I'm old, okay? And the reality is, not only am I old, he's old. And I'm just worn out. Any moms out there? Just worn out, right? My oldest and my youngest, there's 12 years between them. And my oldest, she gives me such a hard time. You would have never let me. I said, you're right. I'm just worn out. Braden gets by with way more than he should. I know. I'm just so tired, right? So I can sympathize with Sarah. I'm like, you ain't give me no kid at 90, right? I'm worn out. She was facts. These are just facts, God. But how many of us, faith and facts don't line up? And sometimes we're like, well, God, reality is, I'm barren, I'm old, he's old, I'm worn out. Come on, let's be real, God. But that's the story. Faith and facts don't match. And they're never gonna agree with each other. They're always gonna bump each other, and they're gonna challenge you. So this is the thing about Sarah. She's got all this unforgiveness, this blame, and the facts are, God, the reality is, it should have happened when I was 60, and now I'm 90. It still hasn't happened, God. I mean, where's your timeline? I know my timeline. Our timelines don't match up, God. That's where she's at. And we may judge her, but I can relate to her. And I can say, oh, yeah, God didn't drop his timeline to me when he told me that. So I have to trust him. That's called faith. And sometimes our faith can be clogged up with some stuff. Maybe Sarah didn't reach the promise because there was some stuff that God needed to get out, that God needed to uncover and say, Sarah, you're not ready for the promise because you need to deal with your unforgiveness. Sarah, maybe you're not ready for the promise because you've got to stop blaming other people where you came from and realize I'm the one that sets you apart. I'm the one that decides where you go. And Sarah, let's stop looking at facts. You need to have faith. I'm not for sure, this is the thing about the Bible. They go one chapter, I'm like, wait, what happened? And I think this is part of the Bible that I'm going to go to heaven. I'll be like, okay, Sarah, seriously, I need to know. Because all of a sudden, we get to chapter 21 and there's Isaac. I'm like, whoa. When did Sarah change her mind? When did she? Because it says, by faith, she got a son. So where did she change? Where did it come to real to her? Well, we don't know exactly, but we know this. We know chapter 19 and chapter 20 come before 21. And if you go back and read 19 and 20, it ain't so good. Because 19, here comes Lot again. Hello, Lot. He causes more problems. And it's the whole story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and God's going to destroy the cities. And they say, Lot, you can get out, but listen, you and your family, your daughters, you're going to have to run. And when you run, don't turn around. Just face and go. And what does his wife do? God didn't mean me. I'm going to turn around. And she turned into a pillar of salt. Hello. Old Testament, man. They don't mess around. So could you imagine? I'm sure that information got back to Sarah. She what? She turned into what? Because she disobeyed? Maybe I should think about that. I don't know. I don't think that story would be there before she gets her son. There might be a reason why that story's there. I think it would get my attention. And then the next story, she gets put into, they go through this Now, don't judge them. They do the same thing, Abram and Sarah. She goes into Abimelech's home. He's like, hey, go to Abimelech's home. Let's tell him you're my sister. I think we can gain some riches from this. It's going to be good. It'll keep us safe. And she does. Now, the difference in this story, I have some respect for Abimelech, poor guy. God comes to him in a dream and says, she is not who she says she is. She is somebody else's wife. And he woke up with a dream. He woke up with a dream. He's like, Abram, get your wife. She is not here. You need to go. Because could you imagine there's like the pillar of salt just sitting there? And he's like, you need to come get Sarah out of my home. She is your wife. She's not your sister. Why did you lie to me? You need to go. Because he never slept with her. He's like, nope. You need to go. You need to go. And so she leaves the home. So all I know is those two stories happened before we get to 21. So I'm not for sure what Sarah's process was or what she went through or what was the story that just what finally got her. I don't know. I can't wait to get to see her, and I'm going to say fill in the blanks. Tell me what happened, Sarah. I need to know. I want to know the dirt, right? I want to know everything. So here we are, chapter 19. No, I'm sorry, 21. Here we go, chapter 21. How do I know she got there? How do I know she reached the promise? Because look at 21. You go down to verse 6. And Sarah declared, God has brought me. Laughter. And it's God brought her Isaac. This is when Isaac is born to her, because this is when she declares, God is the one who made it happen. And I'm declaring it. God made it happen. Now, how do I know I don't know her journey of finally getting there. I know her journey and the heart that she had because it says it in the Bible. But this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking when God started getting this stuff out of her, when she realized that she was blaming everybody, I have a feeling she was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to blame anybody else. God, I'm not for sure why I got thrown into Egypt. I'm not for sure why I got thrown into Abimelech's home. But I know, God, that you love me. And if you allowed it, I'm going to trust you for whatever happened. And I'm going to allow you to undo all that blame. And I'm going to stop blaming everybody else for my problems, God. And I'm just going to focus on you. Then maybe when she got to here, and she's like, she realized, man, the way I treated Hagar was just so unfair. And God, I didn't let you deal with my unforgiveness and my hurt. And I need you just to help me to forgive. Forgive my own husband. Forgive my own choices. Forgive the wrong that I did. God, will you just undo that? And then you get to where the facts are. The facts are, I'm old, but God, when you call me, it doesn't matter how old I am. It doesn't matter who I came from. It doesn't matter about my past. You know, sometimes we make excuses all the time. Well, God, I'm just too busy. I can't serve. God, I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have a good marriage. Maybe I'm a single mom. Maybe I'm a widow. Maybe I'm a teenager. But God, no more facts, because facts and faith should never line up together. And God, I no longer want to stand on facts. And listen, I want to show you one thing to do, because this is the part I don't want you to forget, is facts don't work with faith. Declare faith, not facts. Because I feel like Sarah reached a point, because it says she declared, God brought me this promise. God's the one that made it happen. And I don't understand her journey. And sometimes you may not understand your own journey, but well, that's not fair, and I don't understand. I understand that part. I do. I've had some stuff along my way that I didn't think was fair. I didn't come from a Christian home. I didn't get saved until I was a teenager. I had a father that was an alcoholic. But I remember reaching a place in my life, and then I got saved, and I was like, man, I want to go into ministry. I went on some mission trips, and I was just fired up, ready to go conquer the world. And then I started standing on facts. Oh, but God, I don't even know the Bible that well, and I wasn't, and you know, I didn't grow up in church like a lot of these Bible students, and I don't think I could be that pastor's wife and be all put together and sweet, and I had a little bit of an ornery side. excuses, facts. I had some unforgiveness. My dad wasn't a part of my life. I was mad about it. Unforgiveness. It's his fault. Blame. And that's just the life I had. But I got to a point where I stopped standing on the facts. And I said, I'm going to forgive. I'm going to love. I'm going to let God deal with that stuff that needed to be dealt with. I'm not going to stand on facts anymore. I'm going to stand on faith. And God, if you've called me, I'm going to go. Because you know my name. You called me, you've chosen me, and I'm going to stand on my faith. And I'm going to do whatever I can to reach people. And I'm going to reach people that nobody else wants. And I'm going to reach people, then I'm going to tell them it's okay that you're not okay. And it's okay you're not perfect. It's okay you don't come from a good background. It's okay if you have a messy past. Just like Abram, just like Sarah, they came from some messed up stuff. But that doesn't matter because when God's called you, he's called you. When he has a promise, and he will come through. Are you going to stand on your facts or are you going to stand on your faith? And I gave you 3 little questions. These are just really short little questions just to ask yourself. When you're like, oh, where is my faith? Where am I at? Look at Sarah. Am I blaming others? Am I letting hurt guide my decisions? And am I always using excuses? The facts are. My husband don't even come to church. My kids aren't serving God. I don't got time. I should have had that promotion. Facts. Are you going to stand on faith and speak it? I don't know God, but I know who I am. I know you've called me, and I know you love me. And just like Sarah, when Sarah declares, God brought me. She didn't say, I brought him. We brought him. She said, God brought him. She got it in the right order. Now, I wish I could preach on Abraham because I feel kind of bad. I kind of just left him over here. But don't forget, there's the next chapter. You can go read it on your own. That's when he just blows the story wide open in his faith with his son. So give him I got to put a little tidbit of there because I feel kind of bad, poor Abraham. But I love these stories because it's just a good reminder there's hope for all of us. And we all have messed up, but there's hope for all of us. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to stand, and I'm going to do 2 quick prayers. And the reason why I'm going to do the first prayer is just going to be anyone that's not saved. Now, at Destination, we like to give you an opportunity every single Sunday. If you've never asked Jesus into your heart, we like to give you an opportunity. We do this in kids ministry. Some of those sweet little kiddos get saved every single Sunday. God bless their hearts. I love it. But I'm like, let's go. Let's pray again. And it's so sweet. But listen, I told you I didn't get saved until I was 16. And I could take you to the little town, to the little church, the spot where I gave Jesus my heart. It was in a youth night. It was in a gym that had carpet. That's what churches did back then. And there was rows of metal chairs. I could even show you the metal chair that I knelt down behind and said, Jesus, come into my heart. Forgive me my sins. I don't know if I truly believe, but I'm going to try this. And I could take you to that exact spot because it was the light. It was like when Sarah became Sarah, it was my moment that I became someone totally different. God gave me a new name in that moment. And I'm so thankful for that moment. I'm thankful that I had youth pastors that didn't think they were too busy. They didn't think a small town was too beneath them. They were okay being, I doubt they got paid much, but they were okay being in a church of just a couple hundred people in a little town. So thankful for that because they changed my whole life and let God use them. And so we like to have every Sunday that if someone invited you or you're here and you're like, well, I don't really know if he's here. Because you have to, we tell our own children, I'm like, you got to find him on your own. I can't make you. I can't force you. I can give you an opportunity. You have to make the decision for you. So we ask it every Sunday. So I want everyone to close your eyes. And if you're here today and you say, Pastor Kelly, I don't want to leave today until I know that he's here. I want to make sure I'm right with him. I want to make sure I ask him into my heart. I want to make sure my sins are forgiven. I just want to know beyond know before I walk out that door. And if that's you today, I want you just to raise your hand real quickly, and I'm going to pray. Nice. I'm with you. I'm so proud of you. It takes courage, it takes faith. So God, I want everyone to repeat after me. So, dear Jesus, come into my heart. Forgive me my sins. Help me to walk the journey of faith and be closer to you. And I love you, Jesus. Amen. Now here's the next prayer I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray for you that are believing for this. And some of you may be believing for something so simple and you don't know why it hasn't happened yet. Because like, God, it's a good thing. It's not something I'm asking for is about me. And you're so frustrated because it hasn't happened. And maybe it's not about you getting that. Maybe it's about the journey there. Maybe God's wanting to get some stuff rooted out of you. Maybe it's some unforgiveness. Maybe it's some blame game. Maybe it's I'm not for sure what it is. But I know this. When you allow God in, he'll speak to you. Just like that's why do you think I brought Miss Harper up here? I wanted you to say God can speak to anybody who's listening. Anybody. He'll just put it here and you just know it. And the more you act on and walk on it, the more he'll speak to you. So we did prayer cards last week. And this is what we're going to do. I'm going to have some of the pastors and staff come up. We've got some more cards they're going to have in their hands. You guys can go ahead and come up front, and prayer team or whoever. So these prayer cards, last week, everyone had an opportunity to write something they're believing for, right? And remember we talked about the fasting and the praying. We're going to come back on revival night, and we're going to have some fun. But some of you maybe missed out and didn't get to write something on the card, or maybe some of you are like, I didn't write it last week, but this week I know what to write. So I want to give you an opportunity. We've got some pastors and prayer team. They have some of the cards. We also have some of the cards by the giving stations in the back, so you can write on the card, drop it in the giving station, or you can come grab one up here, drop it in the little white crate box, or hand it to one of these pastors. But also, we're going to be up here. If you want someone just to say, will you just agree with me? I need someone to agree with me. Because you know what Pastor Bryan says? Who's agreeing with you? I always think, who is in Sarah's circle? I don't know. I'm going to ask her. Who are your prayer partners? It wasn't Lot's wife. No, that wasn't nice. That was bad. But like, who's agreeing with you in a positive way and saying, let's believe for it. Let's believe for Isaac. Come on, let's pray. You know, you got to have people agreeing with you. Not being negative. Well, that's not the facts. You don't want that. You always want this faith. So if you don't have anybody, that's why we're here. We're here to serve you, okay? You're not here to serve us. We're here to serve you. So if you need someone to grab your hands and pray, well, let's do it. Don't walk out. Sometimes the walk up here is what you need. Because, not me, I'm good. Next Sunday? No, maybe that's what God's telling you. You need to get on your feet and you need to move. And maybe that's the breakthrough that God's waiting for you to do. I don't know. But that's the prayer I'm going to pray over you, that God will give you the strength and the courage. Some of you are believing for your marriage. Some of you are believing for your job. Some of you are believing, I'm not for sure what you're believing for. Some of you are here by yourself and you don't want to be by yourself. You wish your husband or your wife was beside you. I feel you. When my mom did start going to church, she was a single mom for a while. I have complete respect for single moms because my mom was solid. And some of you are teenagers, you're here by yourself. I'm so proud of you. It takes courage to start what you want for your family. It takes courage to be here by yourself. I'm so proud of you. This church is behind you. So that's what we're going to pray today. We're just going to pray that whatever it is that God's telling you, what you're believing for, what you're praying for, and maybe you need to let God deal with what's he trying to uproot and get out of you. Let him do it. You'll be much better off, I promise. So God, right now, I am praying for strength and courage and boldness. God, some of us, we sense it, we hear, but we need to walk in it. We need to find somebody to agree with us, God. So I'm just praying today, God, you would give us the courage and the faith to believe, God, what you've promised, God. Maybe we're believing for a spouse that's not serving you yet, God, and we're so frustrated because we thought it should have happened by now. But God, your timeline is not our timeline, God. So help us to have faith and to trust you. not to stand on facts, but to stand on our faith today. Maybe you walk out of here, God, being bolder and knowing that you love us. That even in the midst of Sarah and Abram's mess, God, you still called them and reminded them over and over and over again who they were. Remind us today who we are. We're your children. We're your sons. We're your daughters. So, God, I pray that everyone would have the courage to be praying for, God. Don't let us get discouraged, God, but let our eyes be on our faith in you and not on the facts and things that are surrounding us, God, but let our eyes be on you. God, let them have a blessed week. Let them come back next Sunday. God, invite somebody with them. God, give them the boldness and the courage to do it. And God, we're going to give you all the praise because you are such a good Father. You're such a faithful Father. And we're going to give you all the praise. And everybody said, amen.